So glad you're here today for another episode of everything you want to know about the Silva Method. Today, we are talking about meditation, specifically dynamic meditation. So, quick question to you. Do you find that when you meditate, your mind wanders all over the place and it seems like sometimes you've got what some call monkey mind? Or have you perhaps unfortunately given up because you think you can't do it because your mind's all over? These are the kinds of questions that Amy and I hear all the time, and all of our fellow instructors globally. And today we want to help you with that and demystify some of the myths out there about it, and more importantly, what you can do to have a rich, rewarding experience with meditation and access knowledge, access wisdom and intuition in a way that serves you to contribute to making a better life. Hey, Amy, good to see you again. Here we go again.
Hello, I'm so excited to talk about this topic today because you're right, Ken. It is a question I get a lot, not only in class, but also with those individuals who I'm talking to about the Silva method before they come into class. And one that I get is, oh, I can't meditate because I can't clear my mind. And mentally, I go into mental house cleaning, cancel, cancel. We can learn. So it is something, and it's a valid question because we do have lots of thoughts happening all of the time. And
I gotta,
60, 70, 80% of the time, it's the same thought.
I gotta jump in for a quick second. And then we
Please.
hear, because you didn't mention it, and people say, and I can't stop thinking.
Yes.
Because you're alive. You don't want to stop thinking. That's one of the myths out there. All of this relates.
Yep, absolutely. It's very true. It's very true. And that's why I love dynamic meditation so much because it offers that focus. I'm really excited to talk about it with you today.
Okay, let's dive in. We want to do our best to leave you with some takeaways too that you'll notice immediate results for that. First of all, it's a myth. You don't stop thinking. It's important. You're alive. What you want to, second thing, daydreaming. Welcome to the club. When you are meditating, you're accessing an alpha theta brainwave state, which is typical of sleep, dreaming, and daydreaming. In fact, neuroscience, the science behind it, has verified it's actually a very, psychologically speaking, healthy thing for your sanity to daydream during the day, to just not be even focused, just to allow your mind to wander. The brain benefits from that. That's another whole topic and the value of that. So can you see what maybe really is necessary is you want to have controlled, focused daydreaming when you're doing your inner work, when you're doing your self-improvement, when you're doing creative visualization, when you're using any of the Silva techniques and tools, of course, or you're doing a guided meditation and you want to follow along. It really is an art, and it takes practice and it takes patience because, Amy, I want you to jump in a moment. One of the things that concerns me is people give up too easily. People give up and are too hard on themselves. And I hope you're not one of them, folks, you listening, because you've got far more ability. You can do this. It's just a matter of being kind to yourself and recognizing and not comparing to others and not subscribing to the silliness, to the myths. And usually those myths are from people who don't know what they're talking about with that. So I can tell you 55 years as a meditator using, as Amy mentioned, dynamic meditation is, it does take practice. When I first started, yeah, I was all over the place. I felt like I just wanted to open my eyes. Anxious because I wasn't used to it. I hadn't established a pattern. Somehow, some way I stuck with it. And sometimes I almost felt like I had to force myself to sit and keep my eyes closed and roll through it. That didn't last long, by the way. I don't recall exactly, but no more than a week or so of that, maybe 2 weeks on and off. It's just a pattern that shows up that once you stabilize it
Mhm.
with that. So first step is be kind to yourself and recognize it's an art. It really is an art. And may I just add, and then Amy, I want you to add some thoughts, please. Dynamic meditation, all that is. When Jose Silva was doing his initial research in 1922, two primary contributors to what we now call the Silva Method, the brand, is hypnosis and meditation. Back in 1944, when Mr. Silva started, hypnosis had a heavy emphasis on the hypnotist having the power. Amy, look into my eyes. Go deeper. I know there are some exceptions, and hypnosis has evolved. There's some fabulous hypnotists out there. Some of them are Silva grads who I love and enjoy their work with that. Meditation, like particularly Buddhist type meditation, Zen meditation, has much more of an emphasis on the individual, and the trainer, the guide, is that a guide, a facilitator. Jose married the two together. So you could say hypnosis is the father, meditation is the mother, or something like that, of what became known as Silva meditation. Even back then, in the early days of transcendental meditation, Jose Silva was criticized by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi that you can't think, you can't focus, you can't visualize because you'll lose it. You're supposed to just bliss out and be nothing, nobody, no one, etc. Something like that. They've changed their tune, by the way. If you look at Maharishi University, they have evolved. He truly was a pioneer. So dynamic meditation simply means you can be passive, bliss out, enjoy. It's good for your health, good for your well-being, good for your immune system, and you can be dynamic and do some creative visualization.
Absolutely.
Think of some of the questions you get in the
Absolutely.
classes, and
I'm going to first start with a question I got. It has really stayed with me, actually not in class, and that is I was having a conversation with an anesthesiologist actually, and he mentioned I I can't meditate because I can't just clear my mind, and how I meditate is I run, and that relaxes me. I run. And that is actually both, it can be both passive and active, right? When you're running, you're active, and you've got all of the hormones, the endorphins going, and that relaxes you, so to speak. I am not a runner, so I cannot speak to that. However, you're also doing something repetitive, right? So it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but in a way, it's very similar. And with the Silva method, we first learn how to relax and be passive, what to your point just a few moments ago. And then we focus, and you are focusing and using your creative visualization, your imagination, because as I remind everybody in my class, everything that we have now that exists now at some point didn't exist. It only existed in our imagination. So it is the way as humans that how we start that creative process, right? To bring it into fruition. And the other questions that I get in class to follow up with that is, okay, once I learn, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm really feeling that, but I've noticed throughout the class that as I'm focusing on things and I'm doing the exercises, I have all of these thoughts that start to come in, and they could be anywhere from this is what I have to do tomorrow, or this is the negative thought pattern that I came in to help replace. So how do you handle that when you are relaxed, you are focused, but then things start to come up in your mind?
hold your thought for a second, Amy. There's a lot of wisdom in there. Go back to the running. I was a long distance runner, and you zone out, you trance out because of the repetitive motion, and you're focusing on the end result, the outcome, that is the finish line, the final destination. When people drive their car, especially long distances, and if there's not a lot of congestion, traffic, then it's easier to trance out and your subconscious kind of takes over. Walking, way back they called it the runner's high. So your brain chemistry changes and you're in a state. Some of my best insights have come while I walk every day. I don't run anymore, but I walk every day. And every day I exercise 30 to 45 minutes. And usually I do it in a room, it's quiet. I don't have anything going on. I don't put music on. And I remember things that were important to do that maybe slipped my mind. Or I get ideas. Some of the ideas that Amy and I have been getting with this series have come when you least expect it.
Yep.
So the point I think that's so important. Even dancing. Can you
Yeah.
remember? I kind of miss, we haven't gone dancing in a while, except when we go to weddings. But can you remember dancing and you just don't want to leave the dance floor and you feel like you can go forever? I can remember doing this with my wife Barbara. She was a paralegal at the time, and she'd be upstairs with the attorneys at the bar talking, socializing, and they had DJ's music downstairs, and I'd be dancing for hours. And I would be doing my affirmations, doing my visualization because you're trancing out. When you
Yeah.
do anything repetitive and monotonous, it naturally happens. And that's the point that Amy's making here is that it's a very natural function. Our brain waves are always fluctuating and moving. What you're doing in meditation is typically, and you can do a walking meditation. However, when you close your eyes, it's the easiest, perhaps, opinion here, most effective because you're tuning out all the light, and light energy uh, amounts to about 86% of the information coming into the brain through our five senses, which is why it's so easy. You close your eyes, you're automatic. And if you're in a darkened room, and some people meditate wearing, I don't, never have, but wearing masks, whatever,
Yep.
it's sensory deprivation. Less input to the brain, your brain will naturally move in the direction of alpha, theta, and maybe even deeper with that. So it's very natural, it's very easy. Anyone can do it. And that's what you got to remember. Amy and I both talk about this, and every instructor I know, and I probably know close to 1,000 in my 55-year career because I've been working with training, certifying instructors close to 40 years.
Wow.
Of that, 55 years teaching Silva, but I started doing that 84, so you could do the math, but it's a long time. But it's very common, people thinking that initially with this. It's a matter of learning how to focus it and direct your thoughts so that you, with clear intention, rewire your brain, so to speak, and create new patterns of behavior. And that we do through mental rehearsal or creative visualization. So there's that fine line between, so you're not thinking critically, because if you think critically or start to doubt, am I deep enough? Is this working? You're out of it.
You're not there. Yep.
That. So the point we want to make in this video is that you can do it. It's just a matter of having training, having the right instruction, the playbook, so to speak. And then that's why I find that, Amy, you comment, my last comment is, in every single class, and I've done hundreds and hundreds, I hear people, I can't meditate. I don't know how this is going to work for me.
Yes.
And I can't keep them awake at times. They go so deep. And
Yes.
they're trancing out and they're loving it and they're responding and getting wonderful results and watching them transform. Because when you've got someone, it is easier. The intention, though, is you start that way and then you work on your own with that.
Absolutely. And I would also add that when you start, this is yours. This is your practice. However, you meditate and whatever you experience is completely unique to you. And I know in class, we really make a point in cultivating a space to help with that and to it's our natural ability to want to compare ourselves to others. Oh, am I doing it the way she's doing it or he's doing it? And when we are or when you are meditating in whatever modality you're using, it's completely unique to you, right? And also, I would also add, I was recently listening to a podcast about relaxation and just how, as a society, when we stop doing, when we stop the action we're taking, let's think about a busy day, right? We're going, and then we sit down, we stop, we change our state because we're not actively doing anything. And if we allow ourselves to be there, it can all of a sudden, the same way with thoughts start coming in, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here. I need to get up and start doing something again. Anytime there is a transition there can be some uncomfortableness, right? And we say in class, embrace being uncomfortable. Self-growth can be uncomfortable because we're growing. But even in just the relaxing piece, it's okay, I'm not doing anything. And that is also when those thoughts come in of, I'm taking a break. I'm just going to sit here and relax. You are doing something. You are actually giving yourself a great moment or moments or hours of self-care and allowing yourself to relax. However, in this day and age, we start to say to ourselves, oh, I have this to do and this to do. And if I'm not doing that, then that's a reflection on myself, right? So allow yourself to have that moment of relaxation, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's cumulative, the relaxation and the effects of it. So, first, allow yourself to have it. You deserve it. Your body, your brain, your mind needs it in order to survive, because when we are in constant state of stress, then that's when accidents start happening. That's when we forget things. And we actually go into a great detail the very first day of class where we talk about this and why just having those moments of relaxation is important. And Ken, when you were talking about when we go towards natural, healthy sleep at night, that alpha theta state, what do? We start dreaming. When we allow ourselves to go to that alpha theta state when we're awake and aware, what happens? We start daydreaming. That is, as you mentioned, super important. And if we allow ourselves to relax, and we know, okay, if I'm in a relaxed state, I may start daydreaming. And then we can change our relationship with the thoughts that are coming in. We can put ourselves in the observer seat. So instead of being the driver of the car, we're a passenger and we're looking at the scenery or your thoughts going by, right? It allows us to, instead of being immersed in it, be an observer and say, okay, yep, I do have that going on tomorrow or tonight or in an hour. For now, though, I'm resting, I'm relaxing, and I'm focusing on that. So, having an intention before you meditate, whether it is just relaxing and blissing out or using the Silva tools, we have over 18 plus meditations, and having a focus of why you're sitting there and meditating. You don't really need a reason, but that absolutely can help when you're first learning the skill.
It's so important. You just built on what you said earlier. That part of what happens is when we're not consciously busy, not in a task, and we're in a relaxed, quiet state, we're more likely to remember things that need attention. And as Amy was just saying, and that's part of the beauty, it's called personal growth, personal development, is we begin to recognize things that we've repressed because we're so busy and so distracted in life. And that's a very healthy thing. The only way, if you really truly want to grow, if you truly want to be better, if you want your best self to emerge in all that you do, it's only going to happen by making those changes and eliminating the behaviors that are keeping us stuck. And that's why Amy says a lot in there.
There was.
This idea of embrace being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
By the way, it's wonderful. It's a very comfortable feeling. What that simply means is sometimes it's not comfortable looking at ourselves and recognizing I could use some help there. I could use some work there. Or I want. But then when you have the tools to do that, and that's the beauty of it, because when we're busy running around, we don't think of those things. We just what's right there in focus. And that's it's part of our natural evolution. So with that, I think that's an important distinction. One of the benefits is you're doing the inner work. You're looking at yourself with eyes. It's your own pace, comfortable. In fact, while you were talking, Amy, I thought to kind of leave everybody with thoughts, a simple framework.
Yes.
Since we're talking about that, now some of you already are Silva Method practitioners. Some of you are not, or maybe you've only read one of Silva's books. You can see I've got carefully placed behind me the Silva Mind Control Method by
Yes.
Jose Silva and Philip Mealy. Well, joke. I don't sell it. I don't get a penny from that, but it's a great book. It'll help you if you haven't read it. It's by Jose Silva and Philip Mealy, like the appliance. But the point is, simple framework. We have 4 days, 40 hours of training. It's the real deal, live with an instructor. So be aware, there are a lot of online programs and videos. At best, they're a nice introduction to the program. Some may be better than others, but it's not the coursework. They're teaching stuff that we do in the course, but it's not the way it's designed. It's not what will have the best impact. And I'm speaking from experience. I hear this all the time. Amy, I know you hear it all the time, every instructor with this. So if you resonate with that, great. We look forward to meeting you. But here's a simple framework. Easiest way to do this is you're in a quiet place until you get experienced. Because frankly, it doesn't matter. You could be out on the beach. There could be children running around and you can tune it out. If you're new to this, though, think big and start small and get a nice quiet spot that's private for you where you feel safe and comfortable, and be dressed as comfortable. Loosen anything you want to loosen, take off anything you want, and you begin with your eyelids closed because you're tuning out so much of the light, and then it's quiet, and that automatically, without doing anything more, your brain waves will start to slow. Look, Amy's already trancing out, and your brain waves will, I'm putting her to sleep. And your brain waves will begin to slow down. And then I would recommend breathing. There's a lot of work on breath work. Mr. Silva, in all of his teaching, never really emphasized breathing other than take a deep breath. However, I think it's important because there's so much evidence, so much research being released about the importance of breath work. So if you're familiar with that, great, do it. For our tool, Silva, it's not necessary. Very simple, we use slow, deep belly breathing. And you don't have to count. You don't have to go through box breathing or whatever. You inhale very slowly through your nose. Your eyelids are closed. Hold it briefly. Do it with me while you listen. In fact, you want to close your eyes, go ahead. Amy will be my research subject. And if you're watching this video, and it's safe to do that, your eyelids are closed, nice and comfortable. Loosen anything you want. Feet flat on the floor, hands comfortably flat in your lap. Allow a very slow, deep breath. Fill your belly, hold it briefly, and as you exhale, just have an intention, desire to relax and center yourself. Now allow another very slow, deep breath, a cleansing breath. You could imagine you're breathing in peace, or think of someone you really like and love. Hold it briefly, that breath. Exhale out your mouth. And imagine releasing any tensions. Desire to relax, physically and mentally. One more for now. Allow a slow, deep breath. Hold it briefly. And while exhaling, relax. How good it feels to relax. It's a wonderful, healthy state of being. And now take a moment to feel some gratitude. Think of anyone in your life you are happy for, that person or persons in your life. If there's any opportunity that you experience regularly, whether it be a hobby, work, just feel some gratitude. Thank Source, thank the universe, thank God, thank your mother. Just be thankful. And then, what are you going to be doing after you finish watching this video? What's your intention for the next project, task, or whatever? What's a positive outcome you want to achieve? Just imagine it as if it's happened already. If you're a visual person, it's not necessary, but if you are, visualize it as if it's happened. And then very simply, when you're done, give yourself the suggestion that you're going to open your eyes, and when you do, you're going to feel much better than before. You're going to feel more awake, more alert. So now when you're ready, you may open your eyelids and know that you'll feel much better than before. You're relaxed. Welcome back.
Thank
She's
you,
a good
Ken.
she's a good subject. Amy, I closed my eyes for it too, but it looked like you were starting to. And by
I
the way,
was
Amy's got over 20 years experience with this.
40.
For so I was gonna give her a compliment. So you're too young to 40 years experience, 40.
I
So
started at 9, so that's why.
I thought I remember you saying a later date. I'm not gonna go there. But all kidding aside, folks, all it takes is 5, 10, 15 minutes a day. I would say to you, though, be very transparent because I don't want to oversimplify this. 15 minutes is key, minimum 15 minutes. And the brain, Mr. Silva always said that back in 1944 through 66, we went public with this. And now brain science shows that 13 to 15 minutes does the trick to get into homeostasis, which is the body's way of regulating blood pressure, heart rate, blood sugar, and all those things that allow the body to boost the immune system and help us for our well-being. You can look it up with that. So that would be key in doing that. But again, be patient. You can also add in, so comfortable position where you feel safe and comfortable to do so, eyelids closed, 3 slow deep breaths, feel some gratitude, and then what's your intention for your next task? And then the suggestion, I'm going to open my eyes and feel great. Now, if you want to juice it up a bit, read the Silver Book. It'll teach you things that you can do. But one is think of a place of relaxation where you love to be and make believe you're there as if you're there. We call it the ideal place of relaxation. You could mentally rehearse some possibilities. If you play tennis, if you play golf, something simple like that, or you go bowling, whatever, you can mentally rehearse positive outcomes while in that state. Oh, that
I would
helps. That.
I would also like to add to that that when we're mentally rehearsing, the same areas of our brain light up as if we're actually doing it. I was actually reading a different Silva book. It was a book of stories. Nelda Sheets, one of our first instructors, Ken,
Very fun.
she had a book of Silva stories, and I was recently reading it, and she talked about, I think there was a basketball team, and they had three groups. One, they were practicing physically shooting the baskets over and over again for a certain amount of time. The other group, they were mentally doing it. They were not physically doing it. Their only goal was mentally relaxed, going to level, and shooting the baskets mentally. And the other group did nothing. They didn't practice physically and they did not practice mentally. Of the three groups, the group that practiced physically and the group that practiced mentally, there was a 23% improvement in the group that practiced physically. There was a 22% improvement in the group that practiced mentally. That's the only thing they did. And they were only 1% off from the group that practiced physically. And then the other group that did nothing, no improvement. And so
So
when
do
we
both and you do even better.
even better, both everything we were given. And I'd also like to add that what the exercise that we just did, it was only, I don't know, 5 minutes at most, but I don't even think that 3 minutes. And even if you do not have 15 minutes and all you have is five, it's beneficial for you. Everything is cumulative. And also, I want to add in too that have an intention and be exactly what Ken mentioned, have grace and patience, especially when you're learning this new skill. But when you're using your ideal place of relaxation, when you get relaxed and then you're focused on a place that you like to go to relax, or if you're mentally rehearsing, if thoughts start to come up, then I invite you to put yourself in the passenger seat and notice them. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you so much. We just gave some gratitude. Thank you, thoughts, for being there. Right now, I am in my ideal place of relaxation, or right now, I am mentally rehearsing this next thing that I have going on. Or take another 3 deep breaths, as we just did, to go to that relaxed place, because we end up bringing our thoughts and refocusing them as well. So, just some tips. I hope that helps.
I think that's very important. Thank you for bringing it up because it's about taking command of your life. If you start
Absolutely.
worrying, thinking, and you're waking up in the middle of the night, just tell yourself, now's the time to sleep, not to think or worry. I'll take care of it in the morning. Take charge. And if you do that often enough, you're retraining your brain to cooperate so that you sleep more easily during the night. Same kind of thing. This is again with the training. So, Amy, would you, before we say so long, want to just introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, so I'm Amy Schneider. I am the instructor here in the Atlanta and Georgia area, and also Western North Carolina. I have classes there in Asheville, North Carolina. I was introduced to the Silva Method when I was 9 years old by my mom, who was a Silva grad, and became an instructor in March of 2020, and have been teaching for the past 5 years, or 6 years this year.
Yeah, six. Yeah, because it was March of 2020.
Yes.
I always remember that was when COVID was just breaking loose through America, and we were in a training in Farmington, Connecticut. I did the 4-day immersion, and Amy and a few other people were getting certified to be as part of my role with that. I always remember. Thanks, thanks. And my name is Ken Coscia. I'm the training director, the lead instructor. I'm the guy who Jose selected in 1984, graced me. I feel still deep gratitude in my heart because he saw in me qualities, frankly, I didn't see in myself. I understand about beating yourself up. I have been in the past, hard lesson, beating myself up, expecting too much, being impatient with myself. And now it's just a little bit at times because I don't claim to be perfect. But boy, it used to really, and if you do that while you're meditating, you'll come out of it. So keep in mind, another tip is when you're just enjoying that meditation, we call them alpha breaks. Do that during the day, in between important tasks, in between important meetings, and you will thank us because you'll be more productive, you'll think more clearly, you'll be more focused. The brain needs pauses, and that's what you're doing, an intentional pause to just rejuvenate. And so I serve as a training director. It used to be international. Now part of my slowing down is for the North America, United States and Canada, our trainings. And I teach in Connecticut, Boston area, and Chicago. I do a lot of international work, but in the recent years, I've slowed down. I'm being very selective, and I'm mostly staying in the US and doing the immersion. We call it the immersion of Silva life and intuition system. If you're an old-time Silva grad and you haven't heard, we had a renaissance in 2007, and it used to be called just a branding name change, Basic Lecture Series. But we added some of Jose's very cool advanced material. So thank you for watching, being here. If you're still here watching, that's fantastic. It says a lot about you. You're already there. So until the next time,
Bye.
Amy, always a pleasure.
Yes. See you next time.